Hey everybody, welcome to episode 1 of the Stop and Give Me 20 podcast. 20 minutes with the world's top fitness pros. I'm your host, Anthony Renda. You can check out the show notes at stop20podcast.com. That's stop20podcast.com. Before you do that, go to iTunes and subscribe to the show. It'll help us out. All right, for today's inaugural episode of the Stop and Give Me 20 podcast, I have on the incomparable Mark Fisher, and Mark is the co-owner of Mark Fisher Fitness. Go figure, one of the most successful gyms in the history of the fitness industry. Within a few short years, MFF has grown from a single personal trainer who I knew back in the day to a staff of over 30 with over 700 members. That's crazy. There's one location in Midtown Manhattan. They're opening up another one downtown. They were also recognized as number 312 on the 2015 Inc. 500 fastest growing companies in America. They're one of Men's Health's top 20 gyms in America. They talk about unicorns. They call their clients ninjas, and their mantra is ridiculous humans, serious fitness. They are basically the fitness business equivalent of Walt Disney on acid. Mark Fisher, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm pumped. It's been a long time coming, and it's so great to have you on because you're doing so many amazing things in the fitness industry, and wanted to, shoot this podcast off with some of your knowledge and your story. So, Mark, what's your story? What was that spark, the early roots to your fitness lifestyle?
Yeah, I suspect, like a lot of people, for me, it was definitely, I always sort of jokingly say, my desperate desire to talk to girls. My whole journey into fitness is a little bit different than I think a lot of people, particularly on the strength coach performance side of the industry, in that, I always joke, when I was a little kid, I grew up on the South Jersey Shore, and my father and my 3 older brothers were very much into sports. And I, too, attempted to play sports. But when I was a kid, I would just, I didn't sweat. So I was, the little kid in your neighborhood who would just get, bright red in the face and, have a headache and go lie down by his mom. That was me, no. Right? So, and I totally played sports. I definitely, played them. And, I was, kind of into basketball for a while. And I actually really liked street hockey a great deal. But ultimately, I just wasn't someone who considered himself athletic. And, wound up doing the theater, right? Because it was the opposite of sports. And by the time I got to high school, I really, really, really decided it was time to address my issues with my body. I really didn't like my body. I thought I was very skinny. I can remember the specific moment when I went and weighed myself in the bathroom of my now business partner one time when I slept over his house the Christmas break of my senior in high school. And I was just like, that's it. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to make some change. I really, I want some more confidence. And that was kind of how I got into it. And then I, like many people, just kind of went in and did the machines. And I asked my friends who, did football one year if they would take me through their workout. And that was my very inauspicious beginnings of the fitness industry.
Very cool. It's interesting, I know you call your now business partner, like you said, your non-sexual life partner, that I didn't realize you guys had known each other that long. Was it the same for him too? Did you influence him to kind of go the same direction as you?
Well, I influenced him to open up a business with me because he is not someone who's in himself, and he'll be the first to say this, he's peripherally interested in the fitness industry, but he was interested in making this cool thing with me. And I think that's another reason why Mark Fisher Fitness is so different, because I'm hardly a conventional fitness industry person, and Keeler has barely anything to do with the fitness industry. So we've sort of always run Mark Fisher Fitness as this kind of weird regional theater that does gyms.
Absolutely, very interesting concept over there, Mark. Let's go into my superhero questions. Besides your parents, and you can use your parents if they really were, but who was your superhero growing up, and why?
Yeah, I think weirdly my superheroes were actual superheroes. And when I think back on growing up, I, again, as is not surprising after the last story, was definitely a kid who spent his time lost in comic books. And I was a huge fan. Really, Spider-Man and X-Men were both my favorites. And I think for different reasons. I think Spider-Man always appealed to me because he was the nerdy kid, right? And that was something that really spoke to me because I was like a nerdy kid. And I think the reason nerdy kids tend to like comic books is on some level, I think we all hope that like, what if there's like this special thing about me that no one knows? And I think for that reason, I always really like related to Spider-Man and always felt badly that he often was like so misunderstood because he was like doing these really cool things, but no one really knew about it. And then the X-Men, I think, majorly shaped, I think, a lot of my morality. I think the X-Men really, in many ways, and that in my sensitivity is where I got my passion for inclusivity and being inclusive, because I can remember as a child being so like emotionally upset by the way that they were treated, right? And it's such a wonderful allegory for any sort of racism or sexism or prejudice that just felt so morally, ethically wrong to me that these people I loved so much were constantly being persecuted for who they were born as. And I think that like majorly shaped my moral code in I think really kind of profound ways.
Amazing. And if anybody's walking down, Mark, is it 39th Street, your location? I forget.
Yeah, 39th Street and 9th Avenue. Yeah.
Yeah, the outside of it's this kind of the Mark Fisher superhero picture or portrait out there. It's pretty cool.
I guess it kind of is.
It's pretty cool. Mark, who's I know you really do a lot of education and across all industries. Again, not just fitness industry. So who's your superhero now and why? And this could just be anyone, who's doing some great things to change the world, anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I really have so many. The one that comes to mind immediately, I'm obsessed with, there's a guy, his name is Danny Meyer, and he is a New York City restaurateur. He wrote a really wonderful book called Setting the Table. And to my mind, he really is a model for a progressive leader and someone who's an important figure in what can be called the conscious capitalist movement. And he has a really beautiful approach to building an organization and to his culture that he refers to as enlightened hospitality. And I think that what he has done with his uncompromising absolute dedication to greatness and really making incredible restaurants and incredible experiences through really taking care of the people that work for him and really taking care of the people that go to his establishments, to me has been really kind of set the model for, I think, in many ways, who I aspire to be. And it's interesting that he's a restaurateur, so he's not directly in the fitness industry, but we've talked about this before. In many ways, there's actually a lot of parallels because the fitness industry is a people-based, face-to-face service industry. So he is someone that I very much look up to and respect. And for anyone listening to this that is at all is doing any management or leadership, I highly recommend reading Setting the Table, or just do a Google search for what's called constant gentle pressure. Constant gentle pressure, which to my mind is the most simple and brilliant paradigm for how one approaches managing.
Very cool. And as you know, I was in the bar business in the 90s and the early 2000s, and I shared a lot of employees with Danny and basically had one of his people steal one of his or bring in one of their manuals, because I knew at the time, even then, he wasn't Shake Shack hadn't even opened yet, but he was known. And I can tell you right now, none of his employees, everybody loved working for him. Nobody had anything bad to say. And that's saying a lot in the restaurant business, because right. Especially where you are, a lot of actors, a lot of people are not in it. That's not their number one, it's not their goal to be in that business forever. So awesome answer. I love that. Mark, this is a tricky one for you. Who do you want to be a superhero to? And I know because, you have Mark Fisher Fitness, but you're also doing business for unicorns. And so you're starting to teach people about business. So you have your people who you're trying to help through the fitness industry, but also you're trying to help business owners. Who are you trying to be a superhero to?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think that sums up a lot of where that question, I think, really clarifies a lot of, I think, what I see for my vision for the next like 5 years of my life, because really it's sort of both. And I think the one fuels the other. In that on the one hand, I certainly want to, and I don't know that I honestly feel like super comfortable saying like I feel like a superhero too, but I aspire to be someone who is known for really genuinely doing a good job of taking care of his team so that they can take care of the ninjas, and then so we can take care of all the people that trust us in Mark Fisher Fitness to be a solution for them, to help them find an inclusive and positive space where they too can understand that movement and fitness is for everyone, no matter your background or no matter how you might felt body or athleticism, that you too can have movement in your life, and that furthermore, that can be a foundation for a life well lived. And on the other hand, I also have found so much joy, and it's such an unexpected journey to be spending so much time working with fitness business owners and various entrepreneurs on creating healthy organizational culture. And it's really my intention to continue truly to do both of those, because I don't think my work with other entrepreneurs and business owners would be as robust if I wasn't constantly learning as I do every day working with the Mark Fisher Fitness world and the team and the ninjas, because I'm not a perfect person, right? I'm not a perfect guy, and I'm still very much on my own journey. And it's very important to me when I think about my dream world, there's never a world in which I'm not doing Mark Fisher Fitness. And I know it lots of times, and this makes perfect sense, when people begin to do the speaking and the coaching, there's things about that are, it's a different life, and sometimes it's a better fit than running the facility itself. But I'm still very much invested in Mark Fisher Fitness, and I always say it's my love letter to humanity. And I'm continually grateful for the things that it teaches me and the lessons I've learned, which, they're hard lessons to learn some days. I'm just like everybody else here, just trying to figure it out. I feel very lucky that I have the right team around me and really like wonderful people that are really patient with me and challenge me and help me get better over time. And I look forward to continuing to, learn stuff at Mark Fisher Fitness and help my team have the best life that they can, and the ninjas have as much success as they can, and then sharing what we're learning with the rest of the industry so that we can impact the world on a much larger scale.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm kind of at that crossroad myself right now. I'm kind of transitioning out of a physical facility and into kind of expanding this whole strength coach brand and education and trying to have more of an impact. So I understand where you're coming from. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Mark, now it's time for the Stop and Give Me 5 segment. We're just going to do 5 rapid fire questions. So don't be scared. What's the worst fitness trend?
I think the worst fitness trend in my world, which is a very specific sliver of the fitness industry, is obviously so big, I think is any sort of obsession with minutia and optimization over actual practicality and pragmatism and getting people to actually do stuff.
All right. You're on a desert island, barbell, kettlebell, or dumbbell?
If I'm on a desert island, I'm probably going to bring a kettlebell.
Right.
A kettlebell.
Very cool. One exercise you can only do. What is it?
That's always the toughest one. If there's one exercise I can only do, I guess, I don't know. I want to say Turkish get-ups, but it really would be a deadlift.
Okay. All right. Awesome. I was going to say last live concert, but you know what? Somebody's coming to New York. Give us a Broadway show or non-Broadway that that your fiance is not in.
Okay.
What's the recommendation?
Narrows it down. I actually haven't seen Hamilton yet, but I understand it's quite good. Just one of the many shows I've seen recently that I loved that Sheena is not in is there's a production of Color Purple, revival of the musical Color Purple that is absolutely outstanding. And the lead actress, Cynthia Erivo, is, to my mind, it's one of the most astonishing performances I've ever seen. I can't recommend it enough.
Great stuff. Last one. What book influenced you the most in your life?
I think Man's Search for Meaning is the book that comes to mind initially, but I read that actually quite late. I only read that, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. The book that probably in many ways changed the course of my life was probably Power of Now. because I read that right after I graduated college. And at the time, it was such a revelation to me. And I, in fact, only read the book because I thought it would make me better at my professional pursuits. But upon reading that, the only time is now, which is so intuitive, right? But for the first time, really as a 22-year-old, to conceive that there is no past and there is no future. And if you ask a tree what time it is, it's always, well, it's now. When else would it be? Was a really powerful distinction. And I think really set me on a very different course in my life had I not read that book.
Very cool. Mark, what do you think? What do you think we're doing right in the fitness industry?
I do. I mean, I think back to the thing that I, see as a trend sometimes, like kind of in some of my world, which is, really brilliant people occasionally debating over minutia that I don't think is always like super relevant, particularly with general population. I think that one thing we do seem to be doing well is I do think there is truly a tidal change coming where we are understanding that to make real change in people's lives and to serve the mission of our industry at large, it is about much more than sets and reps and exercise selection. And those things are important and they do matter. And I do think you need to study human physiology. You certainly need to learn how to create a training effect without hurting people. But at the end of the day, that's the knowledge gap. And the behavior gap is such an ocean. And I do think that this is something you're just seeing more and more people are talking about it. And it's something that makes me very proud and feel very hopeful and excited about the future of our industry.
Very cool. Let's go last two. We're going to go with Mark. What are you working on right now that's just getting you really excited that you can tell us about?
Yeah, it's really it's sort of the two prongs I was talking about before, where I feel like, I'm definitely loving all the speaking stuff that I'm doing. And I'm excited about the potential long-term for Unicorns. But what I'm most excited about right now is the Bowery, which is our second location. I feel so excited and definitely like I'm staring at a mountain in front of me over what the next 6 months will look like. Because opening up a second facility, I know is going to ask everything of me. And I feel very focused and driven and excited to have really wonderful challenges and to get to really work very intimately with the team to figure out together how do we do this thing that right now I don't think any of us know how to do yet. And I'm both like totally terrified, but completely excited and stimulated by that challenge.
Great stuff. Looking forward to that. We're definitely going to we got Strength Coach TV starting up in the new year. We're definitely coming to Mark Fisher Fitness, so I'm looking forward to coming to either one. Mark, last one. What's the letter to your younger self? What advice would you give to yourself besides don't miss that meeting with Anthony Renna before you opened up Mark Fisher Fitness?
Yeah. That pivotal meeting. That actually was the most influential book, but it wasn't a book. It was my meeting with Anthony Renna. I think, if I had to write the letter, I would just love to have told myself as a kid that the very things that made me most insecure and the very things that made me feel different and other ultimately were going to be the source of the greatest joy and the greatest opportunity to really serve the world around me. And that's what and then I'd like give myself a hug.
There you go.
And
nice.
And then both of us would cry because I cry a lot. So we both would cry, just hold each other, and it'd be great.
That's awesome. Mark, well, that's our 20 minutes. So I really appreciate you coming on. I mean, we could be here all day doing this. You really helping change what's happening in this industry. And all of us appreciate it. So thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. What an honor.
All right, well, that's going to do it for episode 1 of the Stop and Give Me 20 podcast. Thanks so much to Mark Fisher for coming on. Make sure to check out all of his links to all the stuff that he's doing at stop20podcast.com. That's stop20podcast.com. Don't forget to go to iTunes and subscribe. Leave us a rating and a review. My name's Anthony Renna. Thank you so much for stopping by.